Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Uranium Energy. It is time for another update, and today I want to start off by congratulating all of you who have used the area of support provided for continuation here within a fifth wave, yeah? And to recap, I have provided you this area of support between the $13.7 all the way down to the $9 level ever since we have formed the top within the wave 3. We were looking for the 3-wave correction to the downside, and we had a very good estimation as to when we should expect a bottom to be in place, when we should expect to have a full count within this structure. Yeah, we were very early for that, and we are already heading into new all-time high territory. It seems only a matter of time before we actually get there. We have broken the levels of resistance, and today we will also be talking more about the structure that we expect to form within this area further, and yeah, the overall expectations for this pattern. But before that, I want to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we have been tracking this idea of a series of 1-2 setups that would expect a third wave to unfold within this area. And while it is technically still a possible interpretation, it is certainly a very fragile one, because it would imply a very large amount of 1-2 setups, yeah, even internally within this structure or within the larger time frame for 1-2 setups could be rather unrealistic. And while we will be able to track such a pattern if we build the fifth wave and start the larger correction, I might need to be more considerate of the idea that this may be a more significant top within an even larger wave one, or more realistically could be even a larger ABC movement, but that remains to be seen. We will be tracking the larger area of support, but unfortunately we might only be able to look with high probabilities for continuation higher once we get a confirmation on the smaller time frame, because the risk will be very significant once we actually form this structure, once we actually complete with this movement to the upside. Now, internally within this area, I have decided to move the blue interpretation within its own separate group to focus on it less than on the white scenario. It is not the most probable interpretation. It can still work out, but yeah, it will not be a focus here on this channel at the moment. Now, within this white interpretation, we have been tracking this idea of a large diagonal structure. Could be a leading diagonal in a wave 1, could be an ending diagonal in a larger wave C, part of the larger wave 1 to the upside. Doesn't really matter. We are tracking ABC structures all throughout this movement, yeah, all throughout this entire uptrend. And here another ABC in the wave 3, ABC in a wave 4, and now ABC within the fifth wave. Now, we might be closer than you may think to a top within this wave 5, and I'm not confirming that. I'm just saying that once we build here an ABC structure, we wouldn't need any additional continuation higher. Of course, this could extend into being a larger wave A. We could get afterwards a wave B and then still another wave C to the upside. It could extend higher, but the risk will be significant. We might need to start considering some exit plan, yeah? From the low we formed within this area of support I provided you, we are already over 70% up. We should start considering an exit plan, especially considering the larger context. There is risk, yeah? And across many charts, we actually see a lot of risk for larger corrections to appear. This might form a top before it happens, but it would be also a significant risk to occur within this chart, a larger correction. Again, it might be only within a larger wave B and then a wave C could take us higher, but we will need to be aware, we will need to be very careful when we actually start having a full count within this area. Now, at this point, I wouldn't worry too much about whether this wave 4 has completed or not. Yeah, I would consider it to be done in the highest probability we can actually track within what we have at the moment. And this yellow interpretation that we had here for possible continuation within a correction in wave 4 has been broken. In the previous video, we pushed perfectly into the last level of resistance, and this overall structure has been highly relevant. Yeah, we can see how we reacted to several of those levels with significant retracements. Yeah, some stronger than the others, but even here, the last push was challenged and it managed to break through. Now, of course, we can remove this interpretation, we don't need to track it. And before we actually go into the internal structure, I wanted to mention for any of you who don't know the context of the blue scenario. Well, that implies realistically a series of 1, 2 setups that would be going on within this area. Instead of tracking a larger diagonal structure, we would be tracking a series of 1, 2 setups that could technically still allow us to form the larger wave 3 to the upside, but it's a very unrealistic expectation because, yeah, the third wave would need to be an impulse, and even at this point, I'm not tracking this structure as an impulse to the upside within the wave C that we are tracking in the green interpretation, and yeah, it seems, again, a very unlikely scenario, but I will continue to allow it to exist in the background. It will not be a foreground interpretation anymore, however. Now, with that said, we are tracking here to the upside this ABC movement in the green scenario at the moment, because especially within this structure in the wave C, I am having quite a hard time to track an actual impulse, yeah? Within this movement to the upside, we only formed a 3-wave move, yeah, we had our correction, and then we seem to have only formed internally within this initial push to the upside a 3-wave move. Once again, I told you that in the previous video even, but yeah, I'm lacking here even a tiny 1-2 setup. I would rather consider this to be a 1-2 and this a third, but within this structure, I would rather be tracking it as a larger diagonal movement. Yeah, it's not an impulse, it's a diagonal structure. So I'm considering this to be something like an ABC. And now that we have gotten the extension higher, I'm not really considering that we actually formed a bottom within this wave 4. I told you, even if we get into the area of support, I would expect a larger correction, yeah, similar in proportions to what we had here in the wave 2 if we really are building this larger wave 4. I told you that if we manage to break the orange interpretation, we should expect continuation higher. We should have a signal that this correction could be complete and the structure could extend higher. Sure, we did get stopped here at the last level of resistance. We have formed quite a significant candle top within this area, but it managed to extend higher. Now, this orange interpretation is no longer relevant. It didn't extend, it didn't form the 5-wave move to the downside. That would have suggested to us a larger zigzag pattern could be occurring. Yeah, it's not needed. We can discard this completely. And now, since we haven't topped within the wave 3 here, I am tracking continuation higher still within this wave 3. I'm still looking for some extended upside on this chart, yeah, because within this wave 3 we haven't formed the top. We could have, but at the moment it is still possible for us to track continued upside within this structure. And within it, again, this I am tracking as an ABC structure. I am considering this to be the initial wave A to the upside part of the larger wave 3. After that, we have a tiny correction that I'm tracking here in a wave B, and I'm looking for a C wave to be unfolding. Now, within this wave C, we can even look here for some ideal targets. It would be the 100% extension of the wave A. That would be at around the $17.5 level. We have reached that, yeah, we have achieved the ideal target, but the internal count within this wave C did not reach its full potential yet because I can track considerable continued upside, and within pretty much all interpretations that I can track within this area, I would expect quite more upside, yeah? Firstly, we have here a 1-2 setup, and this is of course within a large ending diagonal in the wave C. This is certainly not managing to form an impulse, yeah, not within my likely interpretations anyway. And we can look for an ideal target for the wave 3 to get an idea where might we stop within this wave 3. We have already achieved that as well. It was also at the $17.5 level at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. Yeah, pretty much the same exact level. But this structure seems to be only within this wave 3. We should expect a 4th and a 5th within this structure before we can consider this count clearly full. Now, I'm not saying this is the only possible interpretation, but I find this to be the most probable interpretation that I will be tracking, yeah, at least for now. Now, within this wave 3, I am once again tracking an ABC structure as it is within the larger wave C is within a diagonal pattern. It is building a diagonal structure, not an impulse. It is not expected to form a 5-wave move to the upside within the wave 3. And in this case, yeah, we have here a wave A top, we have a tiny wave B correction, and now we are building the wave C to the upside. Now, this wave C might actually build an impulse within this area, but it doesn't really matter if it does or not. All I really want to see here, however, is the full 5-wave structure. And at this point, I might consider this to be probably something like tiny 1-2 setup, could be here another 1-2 setup, and a third wave might be forming here, where within this wave 3 I might actually still see continued upside. We might have here a 1, 2, 3, 4th and a 5th to complete only the internal 5th wave to the upside, but I wouldn't necessarily look too much into this time frame. We will be tracking a tiny area of support for this idea for continuation higher. This would be for an internal ABC movement within the ending diagonal that would be here within a fifth wave, we can notice that we have pretty much retraced into the last level of support within this area. But again, we shouldn't dwell too much within these levels. This is just for some guidance. Yeah, a break below the $17.3 level would be a decent signal that this structure would be rather expected to form a larger correction, that a larger top may be in place. And I'm telling you, especially within this tiny nano time frame, whatever you may want to call it, it is in the 5-minute time frame. The structures can morph very easily, and they are not to be treated as trade setups. They are not to be treated as absolute structures. I could also be tracking this as a full count to the upside. Especially if I zoom out a little. Yeah, within this pattern, I could consider this to be a tiny 1-2 setup, a third, fourth, and a fifth. Could be an ending diagonal. I wouldn't need any additional highs, and the third wave might have already topped. Now, if we continue higher, sure, we can track afterwards a larger area of support that would be adjusted, but right now, the same larger area of support is what I will be going to focus on. And for continuation higher within this larger wave C that would complete the larger wave 3, I'm watching here the levels between the $16.9 all the way down to the $15.7 level. If we break below the 61.8% retracement here, I wouldn't consider a top to be in place. I would, however, most likely consider this third wave to have formed a more significant top. Yeah, other interpretations may still work out depending on how the structure unfolds within this area. We might get additional clues as to what interpretation is more likely, what scenario fits better, but right now we are actually consolidating still at a very high level. I wouldn't expect this third wave to have topped just yet. I'm still looking for continuation higher, but a failure to do so would take me to watch out to the larger correction area, the larger wave 4 in this movement, yeah? And within it, we wouldn't necessarily expect the largest correction in terms of proportions. Keep in mind, this was a pretty or relatively quick correction in wave 2, although, again, we should take more of a bird's eye view from this area, because we shouldn't dwell too much within these time frames. We have the 61.8% retracement at the $15.7 level. As long as we hold it, we shouldn't dwell too much within it, because other interpretations, again, are possible. This might still be forming even an internal ABC movement. It would have a very similar area of support. Several extensions higher are still possible, but for now, yeah, I'm eyeing possibly around the $20 level to get within this overall wave C to the upside, within this overall fifth wave within the initial ABC structure. If we then follow extensions, yeah, we may look for even further continuation, but right now around the $20 area seems to be a reasonable target we should expect to reach within this movement, although no promises, yeah? We need to be tracking the areas of support, because if we fail to hold them, we can still fail, yeah? The structure can fail at any point. It is just about probabilities that suggest we should expect continued upside, but we still need to be careful. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.